Hey, Editor Chalky from October 2025 here. Oops, I played myself. You'll see why in just a moment. Sorry, I was busy launching my university's VTuber program. Anyways, I just wanted to preface this video to say I'm only posting this to be a more accessible view of this VR project. I was really considering scrapping this entirely because I'm working on a new video that's about my entire journey of crazy stuff I've done the last 5 years because of my anime boyfriend, which does include the stuff in this video, but there's more and I promise it is very wild. So stay tuned for that. Okay, sorry for the preamble, now let's get to it. It's February 22nd. That means it's Karamatsu Day. Woohoo! Who is Karamatsu, you may ask, and why is it his day? Well, in case you didn't know, he's the second oldest son of 6 identical brothers, hence why 2 is his number, that are grown-ass men from an adult comedy anime called Osomatsu-san. And also, we are married. Ever since Karamatsu inexplicably started rotting my brain in November 2020, the simping gave me an unfathomably endless well of motivation and energy to make all kinds of stuff. Like for Karamatsu Day 2 years ago, I redrew and animated an entire anime opening all by myself. And I spent all of 2023 basically learning 3D modeling, rigging, and animation just so I could make a whole first-person POV music video about you, well me, but also you, the viewer, going to the anime world, meeting Karamatsu, and falling in love. Okay, now that you have sufficient background for how insane I am, I can talk about the actual title of the video. I learned Unity so I could date my anime boyfriend in VR. In my last semester of 2023, one of my classes was about developing VR environments, and I knew it was the perfect opportunity to make the dream VR Karamatsu experience real. I've memed about this with friends ever since the brain rot started, so it was very cool to be able to try and make it a real thing. I wanted to give a massive shout out to my enabling partner in crime and fellow Yumejoshi, Fiona. So we teamed up once again for this VR class, and for the very first week of school, we wasted no time and went straight to making the dream come true. The way we justified the idea to our professor and TA was basically like this. We start with the problem that we want to address. There is very little female, or at least male-attracted, oriented visual and/or interactive point of view, also known as POV, romance content in general. Even though there are books, a lot of books, there's not much in the way of live interactive stuff. At best, there are otome games, but that's all we have. Furthermore, what little there is overwhelmingly 18 plus adult content. So why should we make something to change that? Well, fangirls are an incredible untapped goldmine. Okay, you know how people say that for better or for worse, horny people are kind of what fueled most technological advancements? Like the breakthroughs in 3D animation were because of Bioshock porn, because of Coomers. Editor Jockey here. Unfortunately, this myth about Bioshock has been debunked by a great video about Rule 34's history by Lex Torias. Check it out. But I still think it's true that horniness is one of the strongest primal motivators humans have to create art alongside spite, so hopefully the point still stands. Well, I genuinely believe that perhaps the only thing that can rival the power of a straight male coomer is a thirsty fangirl. Case in point, me. I'm insane. For example, look no further than Token Ranbu fangirls who single-handedly funded the restoration of several major historical artifacts and shrines in Japan because they were so thirsty for swords that are anime boys. As a female POV haver and also my own target audience, I decided to just take matters into my own hands. So that was our pitch. And the class required us to research existing inspirations and examples of our idea for reference. And guess what? There is one single VR boyfriend simulator out there. One. And it's called VR Karashi, and it's freaking mobile only to boot. And obviously that means there are no hand gestures or interaction support. And it is embarrassingly bare bones, especially compared to the counterpart title VR Kanojo and the hundreds of other virtual girlfriend experiences, which really pained me to sit through playthroughs of VR Kanojo. It is tragic how few of the virtual girlfriend experiences in games feature women that are actual adults, and if sexual themes are present, and they often are, it is also consensual. It is sad. So our goal was to be the change that we wanted to see. A wholesome, loving, VR boyfriend experience. So we pitched it, and we managed to pick up another team member along the way. Shoutouts to our lead programmer, Jeremy, who was on board for the whole idea, no matter how crazy it must have seemed to him. I mean, I thought we did a good job making it sound like we were working for a very noble cause, but I guess it wasn't very convincing because the prof pulled us aside after the proposals to ask us, oh, just to make sure this is going to be age appropriate for the classroom, right? Like, ma'am, what are you implying? Please, ma'am. The whole point is to be as PG and heart-wrenchingly wholesome as possible. But yeah, we got the green light. Woohoo! So the next step was to do a rough storyboard to map out how it would look and what the interactions would be. The idea was to simulate coming home to Karamatsu very late after a stressful day of overtime wage slaving. We came up with a few scenarios that could allow for VR object interaction that would check the boxes for our project requirements, that also fit the idea of a kind of nice, comfy stay-in date night. And then you go to sleep together with maybe something crazy like, I don't know, a little kissy. Yeah, we also had the idea of an affection meter and dialogue branching where you could respond by nodding your head yes or shaking your head no to his questions. And correct answers would increase the affection meter and the corresponding dialogue would change depending on your answer. Lastly, at the end, we wanted the craziest part, which is the kiss, of course, to be locked behind a full affection meter. Otherwise, you'd be stuck with hand-holding, which, I mean, depending on who you ask, is also crazy, I guess. So I churned out a script for us to follow so we would have some more concrete dialogue, scenes and actions, and branching paths to work with. And then I was on the hunt for a voice actor because this kind of thing needed to be fully voiced to have the impact that I envisioned for it. It just had to. So the first thing I did was reach out to Ray Chase, Karamatsu's official English dub voice actor, for those who don't know. Because the funny thing is, we're actually mutuals on Twitter, thanks to that Karamatsu anime opening thing that I made. We chatted a bit, and he somehow knows me and recognized me in real life as that Karamatsu superfan, even though I was in cosplay at the time. I mean, crazy stuff, but that's a story for another time. Unfortunately, he said that as much as he would love to, he couldn't do it because laws about licensing and official voice actors, which is understandable, but sad. Luckily, I was prepared for this outcome, obviously, since paying an actual big-name industry voice actor for school projects was a total shot in the dark, but, you know, worth a shot regardless. What I had lined up was the next best thing. Someone who was able to sound very similar to the real voice. Now, I've been asked to keep the details of how I found out that this person could do such a killer English dub Karamatsu impression discreet, but what I can say is that if you've been in the Osomatsu-san fandom for long enough to understand the deepest recesses of the iceberg, you might recognize the voice from something or some things iconic from the fandom's heyday. Basically, if you know, you know. The absolute star who voiced Karamatsu for this project is Makoto Toby, or Makoto-Toby, and I think you can find him most active on Tumblr as of the writing of this video. He did an amazing job, and it hurts that we had to cut some of the scenes due to lack of time, and some of his voice work was unfortunately left unused in the process. But I am still very happy with the end results. He really struck the perfect balance of painfully cheesy but also very soft love that embodies Karamatsu in my mind. So 10 out of 10, Nintendo, hire this man immediately. Once all the fun stuff was done, it was time for the hard part, development. Fiona set to building the environmental set pieces, and Jeremy worked on the head nod/shake detection and branching dialogue system. We were stuck with Unity as our main engine because that is what the class focused on, which, I mean, since this happened around September to October 2023, was just phenomenal timing. As for me, I was saddled with, well, Karamatsu himself. Having made an existing Karamatsu model for my POV music video project before, I decided to save time and use it again for this, since I already painted the textures and, I did everything nicely. At least I thought. But it was baby's first model, like literally. My first full model I ever made in vanilla Autodesk Maya with no plugins or anything, painstakingly moving vertices one by one. It was riddled with mistakes, lots of broken topology. So I thought it would be a great idea to just, learn Blender and fix it. Easy. It wasn't easy. Even though I learned Maya first, it really wasn't. So that sucked up a bunch of time too. Then the actual pain of fixing the model and then basically just retopologizing whole parts of it, oh my god. But satisfyingly, I knew that once I was done with it, it was much better. The arms were actually symmetrical, yay! Except everything went to hell when I started rigging it for animation. Because my dumb ass, watching a gajillion years worth of tutorials, thought, hey, this Rigify thing seems really handy. It has a lot of controls built in. I'm gonna use it to make my rig. Oh, shoot. It doesn't import super nicely into Unity. Oh, but luckily someone made this Rigify to Unity plugin. Wow, great. Clueless. Does not realize that this is going to mess up the weight painting on the rig forever. Once the rig was done, and I repainted all the weights several times with no effects, until I eventually just gave up and I seethed and coped and balded and just settled with the wonky bendy bones. It was time to do the actual animations. And learning how to 3D animate with Blender really wasn't so bad. I mean, yes, it was slow, painstaking, because I decided to animate with forward kinematics instead of inverse due to the wonky broken rig. But I mean, I thought it did look better since I had a lot more control over every single little movement, and I had experience, doing the POV music video project before. Woohoo! Except, oops, what about something very crucial? The face. Well, Blender has this very cool tool called Grease Pencil that basically allows you to hand draw and animate like a flat 2D drawing, but into a 3D space. You might know it from the Spider-Verse movies, they used it. It took a little while to learn, but after doing a quick little face animation test with it, I was feeling pretty confident. It was actually looking really good. So I went on to finish off the rest of the body animations, and I left the faces for last, which I probably really shouldn't have done. In fact, I really should have looked into the pipeline of importing any of my animations into Unity a whole lot earlier, because as it turns out, I guess nobody's actually really done that. Great! It doesn't matter how great it looks in Blender, Grease Pencils don't go into Unity. It's so over. So great. I wasted a bunch of time learning and animating with Grease Pencil, only to find out far too late that it's just not gonna work. I thought maybe I could try and, make image sequences or sprite sheets for the face animations, and then we could projection map it onto the model. And there was this whole ordeal of trying to figure out how to use a tracking camera to project the 3D shaped Grease Pencil animations back into a 2D flattened image for the sprite sheet. Shout out to Alex, my friend the GOAT, for helping so much with that. But none of that even mattered. With a more complex face shape, it just wouldn't map nicely and stick to the model right. And the deadline was approaching ever closer. And I was pulling all-nighter after all-nighter in a row, working, trying to figure it out. It was killing me. Meanwhile, my teammates managed to put something pretty functional together with the dialogue system, scrolling through a text box on screen and playing the audio and the scenes themselves. The only problem was, I was the only person with a beefy enough computer in our team to actually use the VR headset that we borrowed from the library for the course. So, when it came to developing the actual VR interactions, it all had to go through me. Luckily, that wasn't too hard. And with a lot of troubleshooting, we got the head gesture recognition and some basic object and environmental interactions working. Then everything went to hell. Day of the showcase. Nothing worked. 3 all-nighters in a row, and for what? My prof to put on the VR headset in class and go through the experience only to tell us that rather than feeling romantic and wholesome, it felt like a comedic horror game? Bruh. Since we couldn't get face animations working in time, we just used an old texture with a static, unmoving face drawn on it, which made it extremely creepy looking when the 3D model animated and moved like a possessed doll, unanchored to the ground, with audio of him still talking to you romantically, but his face unmoving and forever unchanging. And transitioning between animations for the different dialogue responses was broken. So during like the head pat scene, for example, if you nodded your head yes to give him a head pat, his body would just glitch through the floor across the room. Our prof laughed it off, so it wasn't too bad, and she still seemed to understand the vision, but deadass, I was on the try not to cry challenge impossible and failing miserably. On top of all of that, the project kept breaking. Since the computers in the labs on the campus were equipped with some beefy 3090 graphics cards, we thought, it might be best to run the project off of those instead of our terrible laptops that are wheezing their last breath the moment we try to run Unity, let alone run a VR headset off of them. This was an exceptionally stupid move because it turns out that all school PCs have extremely strict regulations on software and modifying any files, to the point where Unity itself was flagged as a virus somehow, despite being one of the few programs that was already installed by the admins on the school PCs. And it kept blocking Unity every time we tried to run our game. And anytime we changed any files to fix bugs, it somehow just deleted the entire scene, corrupted the entire project irreversibly, threw up unfixable compiler errors, and it only happened consistently on these accursed goddamn school computers. We had to keep pulling new copies from our GitHub repo over and over every time it happened, and eventually we just gave up on trying to do hot fixes on the spot. The cherry on top of this disaster was that word had spread about the Karamatsu VR date experience because I kind of have a reputation of being insane and putting Karamatsu in all my projects. And people from outside our class had actually come to check it out. And it was just such a mess. Felt so bad, disappointing though. And I went home basically with all my status bars completely drained like I was a dying sim. Truly one of the days of all time. But it wasn't over yet. It's crazy that it literally took us just a few extra days of work to iron out all the major problems. The cursed teleporting and the broken 3D animations were actually fixed quite easily. The only thing left that we still couldn't get right were the face animations. Getting the grease pencil animations in was, well, at this point off the table, so with our limited remaining time, we scrambled to come up with, well, it's something. The extremely jank method we used for our animation project before was basically changing the entire texture, with me basically making a series of 2D animations the old-fashioned way, drawing them out frame by frame, and then we keyframed and animated the texture changes. Voila! Face animations, kind of. Unfortunately, we did not have the time to do that for all of the talking in VR Karamatsu, so on the evening of my birthday, the deadline, we managed to throw together a script that would flip through the mouth open and mouth closed textures to create the 1 frame per second illusion of him talking when the audio was playing, and it actually worked. It wasn't very good, but it worked. And here we are, 2 months,
years. It's been almost 2 years.
Now, after we finished the VR Karamatsu project. It took me that long to emotionally recover, but here we are. If you have a VR headset, you are welcome to download VR Karamatsu to play through yourself on my itch.io at chalkydocky.itch.io/VR-Karamatsu. For everyone else who can't afford a VR headset, like me, I only borrowed it for developing this project, well, I said to some people that I would try and work on a build that is compatible with mouse, but that's a lot of work, and I am unfortunately very busy. School already started again.
Hi, I've graduated now, actually.
So hopefully you enjoy this video playthrough of all the routes instead. And I will avoid commentary so you can enjoy the sweet, sweet dulcet tones of Toby's amazing voice as Karamatsu yourself. I've broken the sections into chapters and labeled them for your convenience. Have fun!
Ta-da! Welcome home, honey. Surprise! Official Karamatsu face cookies. I know I'm not really a baker or anything, but I thought you might like it. Okay, they're not all of my face, promise, just most of them. But I promise I'm tasty. So, thoughts? Don't hold back, honey. I can take it like a man. I just hope a little sweetness helps you feel a bit better. Oh, goodbye, Karamatsu world. But really, sorry. I know it isn't much. Like I said, I'm not a baker. This is kind of my first try. I'm honestly pleasantly surprised they came out even recognizable as yours truly. Don't worry, honey, there's more where those came from. Oh, not cookies. That's pretty much all the edible stuff on the tray, but I'll take care of you tonight. I promise. Oh, thank goodness. Okay, I was actually really worried for a second there. I'm so glad. You deserve a break. Must have been hard today, but don't worry, baby. Just leave everything to me tonight. Just kick back, enjoy the ride, the Karamatsu ride of love. Ignition. Now get your butt inside. Notice things may be a little more sparkly than usual today? Yep, I cleaned the whole place, top to bottom. So don't you worry about a thing. I know it's been a long day, but, you know, couch snuggles could help. Can I lay down a little? Fair enough, honey. You must be so tired, my poor baby. I'm here for you now. Whatever makes you feel comfiest. I like you so much. It almost feels sinful to be so comfortable and close to you like this. I really am a lucky guy, huh? Thank you, my Karamatsu girl. I hope tonight helped, Lasheri. Even just a little bit. I know it isn't much in the grand scheme of things, but I really care about you. I want to do everything I can. But I do have one tiny request, if you'll indulge a sinful guilt guy like me. Just one thing tonight? Well, no sweat for Karamatsu Matsuno, obviously. Good night, my love. Good night, my love. Oh man, I don't know if I'll ever get used to that. No matter how many times we've done it, you're always so soft to the touch and just so beautiful. Good night, my love.
So, yeah, that was the story of the time that I learned Unity and Blender and Grease Pencil so I could date my anime boyfriend Karamatsu in VR. To be honest, the more I wrote of this video, the more I started questioning if anyone even cares about the whole process behind the scenes making this, or if it will even be an interesting story to anyone. But man, you know what? Screw it. I can celebrate 222 the way I want, my own way. And I know Karamatsu will appreciate if no one else does nonetheless. So thank you for watching. If you managed to stick around this long, it has been over 5 years
7. It's been almost 7 now.
since I last made a video like this where I just talk about things instead of, you know, my silly animations and memes and short films and other projects. Holy crap. So for any of the OG subscribers who came from the Momo-kun video essay from 2018, I apologize. It's not for lack of trying. I really do want to make videos like this. I started scripting so many projects. Like, I even made like this huge multi-hour long documentary about Lolita fashion. Like, the script was like 30,000 words long, and I lost steam or passion, or I gave up because, you know, school and life, and it'd be like that sometimes. But God knows, even if Karamatsu is slowly losing the cast iron gorilla grip chokehold he had on my brain, he definitely still gives me enough motivation to do this, at least. So, yeah, hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching.